Welcome everyone to part 2 of building a home music studio. In part 1 we left off at the inn with the subfloor being complete. In this video you're going to see us dive in and start on the framing as well as the insulation for this space. Bear with me, there was a lot of different camera angles that I filmed for this, so there's a lot of different footage. Unfortunately it's kind of slow and dry as it's just framing, so I am going to speed up through a lot of the footage. However, if there's anything that anybody wants to see more in detail, let me know, and maybe I could put out a separate little video of that particular piece and show it more in detail. With that being said, I'll also be doing the voiceover commentary like last time. And let me know what you guys think about that. If you don't like the voiceover commentary, if you just hate the way my voice sounds, I get it, that's cool. Then I can put it in text or just let the videos play out and you guys can ask me questions later and we can do it that way. But for now, I'll do a voiceover on this one as well. And without any further ado, let's dive in. Part 2. Here we go.
Alright, so the first thing that we had to do was remove the drywall on this particular wall, and we probably did it a little bit harder than we needed to because we wanted to save this drywall and reuse it. And some people probably make a comment saying that that was wrong or you didn't need to do that, and you know, I could see that, but that's what we chose to do. We wanted to try to save a little bit of money if we could. We also at this point had not purchased any of the drywall for what was to come, and we did that specifically because we wanted to see if we could even pull off or the attempt of pulling down the drywall. So this is what we're doing here. Well, as you can see, we were successful in pulling down the drywall without breaking anything. We just took our time, and it was a little tricky because they had put nails in. There's 3 or 4 nails in each piece. That was how they initially put it up, and then the rest was screws. So getting the nails out was a little tricky. But we took our time and ended up getting all the pieces down without breaking it, so we were able to reuse them, which was nice. And then here we are framing this particular wall to match the bump out. That way the entire wall would be one size, and it would be equal depth, so to speak, just trying to lessen the amount of nodes in the room. There's already a few that were unavoidable. You can see up in the left-hand corner the box up there that houses all of the main electrical lines and a few other things for the house, and it was just unavoidable. That's in the room, so I have to work around it. But to further any other weird nodes in the room, we bumped that wall out, framed it out, and matched it so that it would be flush. And it ended up working out pretty nicely too, because we were able to double layer that wall with rock wool. So that particular wall actually has double the insulation. And it's actually the wall that is the main listening area for the studio. So at least the main front wall right there has double absorption. All right, here's the first time that we are using green glue. If you saw there a second ago, we're laying down green glue. Don't know how effective or ineffective it may or may not be. Since we had everything opened up, we figured might as well give it a shot to put a little bit of green glue down in between those layers. So if it was going to help, hopefully it would help. That's the only piece of wall that's actually touching that subfloor. So we figured it might give us a chance of actually stopping any excessive vibrations going through the floor when recording drums or anything and getting into the wall. So we'll see. Only time will tell if that actually will make a difference or not. Here, pretty standard framing, just 16 inches on center. Now, this wall right here is not load bearing, so really we could have went with 24 inches on center for this particular wall. Like I said, it doesn't need to be 16 inches on center. Same thing with that floor plate too. The bottom floor plate, we actually did a double plate to match the rest of the house and overlapped the joints. We didn't have to go that excessive with it. It could have stayed 24 inches on center. Probably could have got away with a single plate on the bottom. But we just did that to keep everything the same. So when afterwards, when you were going to hang up any type of paneling on the inside, if you needed to hit stud, then everything was the same. We didn't have to remember, oh, hey, this one particular wall is 24 inches on center. No, everything was equal at 16 inches. And at the end of the day, it maybe cost an extra few dollars in 2x4s, and 2x4s aren't that expensive. So that was a decision we went with. Now here you can see us playing around with how we were going to take care of this garage door opener, because decided to build the wall an extra 3 feet out and get it right up against, you can see there in the top corner where we're standing, we got it right up against where the garage door hangers are. Left just enough room to get a layer of drywall in on the garage side. And we did that because that gave us a little over 3 feet extra width in the studio, right about 3 feet of extra width in the studio that we would have lost. And then 3 feet by 20 feet is a lot of air volume. So we're trying to really maximize the amount of space that we can get in here just to make it a better mixing environment and better overall sound. Basically just the wavelengths, getting the wavelengths to actually be able to travel out a little bit further. And that 3 feet of width by 20 feet of length is a lot of cubic air volume that we added. The tricky part now, though, is how do we take care of the garage door opener, because that can't obviously be exposed and coming into the studio. So we had to engineer and develop a system or a box, as you would, that would cover that, and that would allow that to be completely airtight and sealed from the studio, but allow the garage door opener to still function properly. And then that in and of itself creates a little node in the room, just because it's this weird little thing hanging out. And unfortunately, some things are what they are. No room is ever perfect unless you're getting into the, big multi-million-dollar studios. And I'm sure even then they have their problems that they have to work around, I'm sure. So no room is ever perfect. You're going to have little things that you're going to have to work around. You're just going to have to get used to the space. And that was one thing that we intentionally chose to do and said, hey, you know what, we'll get used to it, because it gains us the extra air volume overall for the studio. And then also here, what we're doing is going and sealing all of the joints. Right? We caulked every single joint that we could possibly find between all the 2x4s, where the 2x4s hit the ceiling, or down on the floor, and that was acoustical caulk from Green Glue Company. So they have their actual green glue noise suppressing compound, and then they have their acoustical caulk, and that was the acoustical sealant, or the acoustical caulk, as you would. And then here, just putting in our rock wool.
All right, that concludes part 2 on my journey of building my own home music studio. As you can see at the end of the video, it's starting to look like a room, right? We got all the framing up, we got the insulation in, you can start to see the shape, and you can start to see it coming together. And it's actually really fun in that process, being able to step back and see it all come together. I know it gave me a lot of motivation to keep going, and gave me a lot of excitement. The next video, part 3, you guys got to stick around because it is a doozy, and we are diving into drywall. And I don't want to give too much of it away. I can leave it out for that video, although the video will probably be a little bit more of this, you know, fast forwarding through the stuff, but I can tell you, and I'll go into it more detail then, that the drywalling is not for the faint of heart. Now, hanging up a single sheet of drywall, no big deal. Is easy day putting your first layer of drywall on, had no problems with it. And to be honest with you, even doing the green glue and putting up your second layer of drywall wasn't that big of a deal. Was as terms of how hard it is. Now physically, it was, you know, pretty laborsome. Pulling the green glue out of that bucket, you know, 1,800 times was pretty taxing, but ended up getting a great workout out of it, so no complaints here. So that wasn't that big of a deal, hanging up the drywall. But the taping, mudding, and doing the final sand was an astronomical amount of work. Way harder than I ever anticipated it being. And I grew up working on cars with my dad, and have painted and sanded and done hundreds of projects over my life. Never had an issue with it. Now, doing an entire room of taping, mudding, and sanding was pretty much overwhelming. It was pretty overwhelming. We'll just say that. It is the one thing, if I could go back, I would 100% have paid somebody to do, just because they have the correct equipment for it. They got these big sanders with the LED lights. They could see exactly what they're doing. It sucks out half the dust. I didn't have any of that. We did it the old school way by hand, and it was rough. So I would, in the future, when I go to build myself a bigger studio, or for anybody out there, I would recommend, yeah, hanging up the drywall. It's really not that hard. It's a matter of sanding, do a dry fit, put it back down, put your green glue on, bam, put it up, easy day. But taping, mudding, and final sanding, I'll say it again, I would highly recommend probably just looking into paying somebody a couple $100 to coming in and knocking it out for you. And they'll probably get it done way quicker. I think we put the drywall up in like a day and a half, and the final sanding took 3.5 days for all of that. And it's still nowhere near as nice as I think it would have been had we brought in a professional. It's the one thing that I should have paid to do. But you live and you learn, and so hopefully anybody out there watching this, you guys will be able to take that into consideration as far as your budgeting as well. But once again, I'll let you judge it for yourself once we get in here to part 3, and you can watch it unfold for yourself. All right, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys sticking around this far. And yeah, see you back for part 3.